Hi, Keith.
Hey,
Dude,
Ruddy.
you just look adorable today.
I was just excited to see you,
Oh, I'm excited to see you too.
but that's past.
Yes, because
Down
now
to
we're
business.
really excited for our guest.
Ooh, who is it?
Our guest today, our guest is someone whose love for restoring older items and locations, along with a passion for the paranormal, has made him a very recognizable presence in both areas.
It
These
has.
passions, yes, it has. It has indeed. These passions have led him to owning Ashmore Estates in an all encompassing capacity while also allowing him to work with the Lost Limbs Foundation. Through his involvement, the foundation was able to purchase the Rhodes Hotel, a haunted location in Indiana that is host to many tours and events that help fund a charity. Everyone, please welcome Mr. Robbin Terry to the show.
Mr. Robbin Terry, how are
Mr.
you,
Robbin
sir?
Oh,
Terry,
I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
We're doing
good.
peachy.
We're so happy to have you on, dude.
Oh, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. It was kind of fun waiting around and waiting for you guys. And then you guys kind of went off the grid for a little bit there and back on. So thanks for having me back.
I have the most obvious question for you, Robin.
Uh-oh.
Do we go to the same barber in the front? No. The Ashmore Estates, obviously. Can you kind of tell us a little bit about what drew you to that property and just how long you've been involved?
Sure. Yeah, that was, I kind of came about that as a fluke. We used to rent a haunted house here. I own an old movie theater, and we built a house inside the movie theater. And then we decided that, hey, we've got the house here, and let's do a haunted house. And I had a group that wanted to come in and do a haunted house in the basement, so we decided to do that. And we kept it going for and finally about 10 years. And then I finally decided, that's it. It's a lot of work, a lot of time and everything. I mean, it was every Thursday night for a year. We'd start the Thursday after Halloween, we'd start for the next year. So
Yeah.
we decided to sell everything.
Jeez.
And I put it on Facebook and a couple of different chats and everything out there. And a guy contacted me and said, hey, I'm interested in a lot of your props. He said, can I come over and take a look at them? I'm like, yeah, sure. That's not a problem. And so he comes through the basement. He's like, I want this and this and this. He's going on. I've got price tags on this stuff. I'm like, he's into like thousands of dollars right now,
right.
in the props and all. So I said, yeah, that's fine. And I said, what do you do? He's like, well, I've got another property that I've had a haunted house at, but we're moving. We're closing that one down and we're going to sell it. We'll move to another one. And I said, oh, okay. I said, which one do you have now? He said, Ashmore Estates. I'm like, oh, well, that's cool. I said, I've been there before. I came out and investigated there one time. And he's like, oh, yeah. I said, yeah. I said, what are you going to do? He's like, I'm going to sell it. And my wife's sitting across the room and she's like, oh, shit. So I'm like, I'd kind of like to come out and take a look at it. So,
she was immediately involved in the conversation then, wasn't she?
yeah, exactly. So,
warning bells immediately went off in her head.
Oh, yeah. And Ashmore Estates is about 2 hours away from me. So it's not like you just run across town and check it out. So I went out there with a friend and my wife went with me. And so we're looking through the building. And when I got there, and the place was in horrible, horrible shape. I mean, it was just ridiculous. Most people would probably not even get out of the car. They said, that's it. I've had enough. I'm out of here. But I'm looking at this saying, it's got potential. And so we got out. We wanted to see the building. And this was the middle of the afternoon, and we had to take flashlights there because all the windows were boarded up or covered up with something or plastic or whatever they had there, except for one. And you couldn't even see in the building at all. I mean, we got flashlights and floodlights just so we can see what we're doing and where we're walking. And this was the middle of the afternoon. Yeah. But there was something when I walked through the second floor of that building and I'm not sensitive at all. In fact, I'm about as sensitive as a rock. And with the same type of heart too, I think at times. So, but there was something in that building that said, yeah, help our building. And it wasn't, what I felt was that the people that were there, the spirits in that building that were there weren't worried about themselves. They were content with where they were, but they didn't like the way the building was. And it was just like shambles and all. So I came home actually to talk to a friend of mine who's a psychic, and I said something to him about that. He's like, well, you got this entourage that follows you around. And he said, they're always following you from the theater. They go with you everywhere. He said, they're probably out there and with you at Ashmore, and said, you should see what he's done to our place. And so they like,
yeah.
So I kind of worked out a deal. Long story short, worked out a deal after I told the guy that his girlfriend never called me again. That thing was off, and because she was obnoxious, and ended up buying it. And we bought it. I think it was like May 3rd of 2014. So it'll be coming up on 8 years that I've owned it.
Wow.
And but yeah, in fact, the first day I owned it, I really didn't tell anybody. I told like 10 people, just a few friends that I was going to buy this place. And because I didn't want anybody like, oh, Ashmore's for sale. Let's run out there and see. And, all of a sudden drives the price up and everything. And I was in the attorney's office and we signed the paperwork and everything. I bought it. I went out there and I took a picture of it. Said, the only thing cooler than owning one haunted location is owning two. And I had a picture of Ashmore Estates and my phone literally blew up.
Man, I can imagine.
And there's no power in that building, so I couldn't even charge it. So if I wouldn't charge my phone, I had to go out to the truck and plug it in and charge it because it was
and all of a sudden, ding, 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 ding.
Oh yeah, it was text messages and phone calls and messages on Facebook. It was going crazy. So you really just buy Ashmore Estates? I'm like, yeah. So
they're like, when can we come out?
Yeah, that's another story. And, but yeah, it's been a struggle. It's one of those love-hate relationships. When everybody thinks it's cool to own these properties. I bought a boat in November of 2013, so I could start fishing and just kind of kick back and do a little bit of nothing. Mm-hmm. It's been on the water one time since 2013.
No.
Because you don't have time.
Right.
It's just it just consumes your life, and it's like that's what you're doing. I mean, that's what I've been doing for the last 8 years was work out there and a few conventions here and there, but for the most part, it's always something out there I'm working on.
Yeah.
But that's a good consumption to have, though. If you're going to have something, with you obviously have a passion for older properties, older items, restoring. Yeah. So having something that really drew you in, that's that special. I mean, it's got to be a fulfilling kind of time consumption.
Oh yeah, it is. Especially when people come out. I mean, I just got a message from somebody the other day. They were out there just past Thursday night. They were out there and said what a wonderful time they had. And the girl that was out there was just fantastic and did a great job for them and everything. And said, we'll be back yet this year. They want to come back again. So,
that's great.
Yeah. So Chris and Mike from Tennessee Ray Chaser were there last night. And, I told them, hey, when they got done and everything, and I got a text from Mike this morning. He's like, hey man, can we look at another date this year? I'm like, I only don't have anything really open till, till November. He's like, that's the day we're looking at November. And, we're looking for a date in November. That's what we want to do. So we're actually going to do something that nobody that I know of has ever done with an investigation. So we're going to post it up, get it out there real soon. Probably in about a week, I'll have it out there, but something a little bit different that
I wanted to ask you until you said that. I was like, what is it?
Yeah.
So, well, I'll tell you what it is because.
Oh, no.
So,
it doesn't bother. Oh, yeah, it'll be a couple weeks.
Oh, yeah. So that's cool.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do, and I've never seen anybody do it, and I've been wanting to do this for years, and I can't get anybody to bite. And those guys finally said, yeah, let's do it. We're going to do a daytime investigation, daytime celebrity investigation. Everybody does these at night.
Right.
Our building is super active during the day, because it was a poor farm and a hospital.
Yeah.
So that's when it was busy. And I've heard more voices and everything during the day when I'm out there than I ever have at night.
Right.
And so Mike and Chris said, hey, man, let's try it. Let's do it. So
that'll be really cool.
It will be cool.
So we're going to do a daytime and a nighttime. It's going to be like a double header.
Compare and contrast.
Like Ernie Banks would say, let's play two. We're going to investigate two.
That's
awesome. That's really cool.
So yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. I think it'll be, I think there's a lot of people that like to investigate or want to investigate, but they don't want to do it at night because they're scared to do it at night. Mm-hmm. Or it's like, I don't want to be out till 1 o'clock in the morning and, do something like that. So
1 o'clock.
We can do one during the day.
Yeah. Well, 1 o'clock in the morning.
That's when you start.
Yeah.
So that's when most of the celebrity ghost hunts stop for the most part because these guys don't want to, unless you're Chip Coffey, then he's like, midnight, I'm done. I'm out of here.
Oh man.
I'm taking my scarf and going out the door.
I was gonna say I can picture him just being like, "Nope, I'm done."
Oh yeah, he did that at Ashmore. He told everybody, he's like, he said, I'm not telling you you have to go home, but you can't stay here. And, we're leaving. Bye.
He's taking his scarf with him. I love that. That's so great.
Take it with me.
Yeah, I'm out of here. Like,
exit stage right.
And Chip seems feisty enough that you wouldn't call him on it. You'd be like, yes, sir.
Oh yeah, he's gonna do what he wants.
Hey, I only say that because I haven't met the man.
Oh, okay. Well, trust me. But yeah, he's one that will definitely just put you into place real quick.
Yep.
Oh yeah, that's definitely the impression. I haven't met him yet either, but I've always wanted to meet him.
He's a great guy. I mean, I really like Chip a lot.
Oh yeah, I've heard nothing but good about him.
Yeah.
Just the energy.
I got a Facebook message from Chip one day, and he says, "Give me a call." And I sent a message back. I'm like, "I don't have your phone number." So he sent me his phone number, and so I called him, and I'm like, "What's up?" He's like, "I am so effing pissed right now," and I'm like, "How's that have to do with me?"
Yeah,
everybody's been at freaking Ashmore Estates but me, and I'm like, I mean, his choice of words was right there. And
I was going to say, he has colorful language. Yes.
Oh yeah, he did. I said, you saw that Zaffis has been out there. He's like, yeah. He's like, how come I'm not out there? I'm like, I've talked to you about it. We can never work that. He said, well, then we need to get this done right now. And I'm like, okay, Chip. So yep. So he's been at Ashmore now, and so we had him out there. So
great.
He no longer has his panties in a wad.
He just said, well,
let's help calm you down.
Chip, I was going to ask you, but it was 12:01. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You're involved with the Lost Limbs Foundation, which was something that I just found out last year when I ran into you in Minnesota. I was talking to Mike Couch about Lost Limbs, and your booths were right by each other and everything. And he's like, well, it's because of this guy over here that it all happened. And I was just like, because I was familiar with Lost Limbs, but I had no idea about you. And I was like, well, I need to go give him a hug now. And that's how we met.
Yep. And Mike's been a great guy. He's been a good friend for about 7 or 8 years now anyway. So we've done a lot of stuff together.
It's awesome. I love it. Can you tell us a little bit about the charity and how the Rhodes Hotel came into play with helping?
Sure. Well, Mike started this charity because he lost his own leg, and he had he basically went to the doctors, and doctors told him, you have a choice. You can cut your leg off or you're going to die. And he's like, I don't have the money to do this. And so they worked out, and actually the doctor ended up writing off anything that Mike's insurance stuff wouldn't cover. And so they wrote off a big bill of it. So when it got done, Mike said, he's like, I got to do something because of this. I profited from this. I got to pay it forward. And so that's why we decided to start this charity to help amputee children. And so anybody that's under age 18, if they've lost an arm, a leg, a hand, even he did one about probably 3 or 4 years ago now. A kid lost an eye, and his insurance company said that they would not pay for an eye because it was a glass eye. And he's like, that's cosmetic, so we won't pay for it.
I was going to say, they're going to say it's cosmetic. That's such crap.
That's rotten.
Yeah. So Mike went ahead and he called me up and he said, what do you think? I'm like, hey, it's your charity, man. It sounds good to me though. But so he took care of and replaced got the kid the eye that he needed. And so I've been doing stuff with Mike for a long time. We actually kind of got started. A girl by the name of Star Kreider contacted me years ago and wanted me to bring the Mystery Machine to an event that Mike was doing. And it was here's how long ago it was. His people on the list were Josh Gates, Steve Gonzalez, Jim Beaver, and there was a couple other ones. And these guys really weren't even like, other than Steve, Josh had no longer had a show. His show was canceled, and so he was like the man without a country. And so he was there and everything. Now, Mike had him come in. He couldn't. It's crazy now to have him trying to come in. But so I brought the Mystery Machine out there, and I said, well, I'll just do it. It's good. Sounds like a good deal. Just send me the money for gas, and I said I'll bring it out there. So we did, and that's when I met Mike, and we kind of hit it off pretty well. but yeah, so we started doing some things together and everything. And then I got a phone call one day about a girl that I know that owned Rhodes Hotel. And she's like, hey, she's like, do you by chance know anybody that'd be interested in buying the hotel? I think I'm going to sell it. And I said, man, Gail, I said, I'd love to be involved with it. I said, but it's 4 hours away from me. And I said, I got enough problems with Ashmore 2 hours away. I said, let alone the place 4 hours away.
Your wife wasn't involved in this conveation, right?
No.
Okay.
This was all, I was saying no all on my own for a change. So, but,
just make sure she knows that. I want her to understand that you declined it.
That's right. But so I talked to Gail about it, and I said, well, if anything pops up, I'll let you know. And so I was thinking about it, and it was probably 2 or 3 months I thought about it. I talked to my wife about it and came up with an idea. So I called Mike, and I said, hey, Mike, I got a question for you. He said, what's that? I said, would you be interested in owning Rhodes Hotel? He's like, and I said, the charity owning Rhodes Hotel. And he's like, charity can't afford Rhodes Hotel. He said, we can't buy that. He's like, I can't use money from the charity to buy that hotel. And I said, I didn't ask you that. I said, I asked you if you would be interested in owning, the charity be interested in owning the hotel. And he said, well, yeah, what do you got in mind? I said, what if I made you the charity alone, no interest, no terms, pay it back with the investigation money that comes in eventually? I said, if it takes 10 years, takes 10 years, whatever it is. And he's like, are you serious? I'm like, yeah, I'm dead serious. I said, Norma and I already talked about it. She agrees with me. And I said, let's do it. He's like, all right. And he said, yeah, let's go for it. And the reason I did it actually was because as you get older and you start thinking about stuff like, I'm not going to be here forever, and what's going to help? What can I do to help something down the road? And what can I do to help that charity? And I thought, I know, we bought Rhodes Hotel and basically loaned the money. We get our money back. And then that charity benefits from every time somebody investigates it. And after I get my money back, it goes right to the charity. And it's going to help that charity. So, I mean, it can bring in a lot, quite a few $1,000s a year.
Yeah.
After I'm dead and gone. So that's why I decided to do it. And, that was the whole idea behind it. And it's been great. I mean, we ended up working out a deal where I get so much at the end of the year and we leave a lot. We basically leave 1 year's worth of bill or payment for bills in the charity for the next year. So for the following year, it's all paid for, everything, all their bills and things like that. If the place was stopped, it dry up as far as investigations go. They've got a year's worth of bills basically paid already in advance.
Mm-hmm.
So, in fact, and it's been great. People have responded to it. It's a great location to investigate if people haven't been there.
I want to go so bad.
Well, the creepiest experience I've ever had in my life was in that place before I even knew Mike.
So you got to tell us now. You don't
want
to say that and not share.
Continue.
No, we'll talk to you later. So, but no, I was down there on an investigation. I had a girl that was doing an investigation there, and she was a psychic medium. Asked me to come over sometime. We never met. I said, yeah. I said, I'll come over and meet you. I said, I've been there before. I said, but yeah, I'll meet you up there. So we drove up the roads and we investigated with them that night, and they were doing a seance. So we were sitting at this table with and it was like basically like banquet tables, all just a long row of banquet tables. There's probably 20 to 25 people there in this row of chairs. And I was sitting right next to her, and everybody's holding hands as they're going around a circle. And as she starts asking questions and doing her little seance thing, I started looking at the end of the table, and I watched people's eyes as one right after the other go like, whoa, like something just happened. And I'm like, what's their problem? Oh, now I know what their problem is. The floor did this. And it just like a wave came through. And I'm like, what the hell was that? And it was creepier than anything I've ever involved. I mean, you're not expecting that when you're looking at these people all having this experience, and then it hits you too. And it's like, and I check, of course, I'm very skeptical with paranormal stuff. And so I'm checking the newspaper the next day for earthquakes.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Aftershock.
We're north of Indianapolis. There's not much chance of having an earthquake up that way anyway. But I'm like, you got to look at all the parameters. So and looking at that, and somebody said, well, it could have been a train. I'm like, when's the last time you sat in a building where a train went by and the floor goes like this? Yeah. And I said, nope, it wasn't a train. They said, and this is the only time it's ever happened. I said, if it was a train, it'd do it all the time.
Yeah.
But it was just weird, the experience that night. It just left me baffled.
Like, was it everything that was on the floor was being affected, or just the people?
Oh, the whole table, everything went just like, it was just like something rolled, was rolling almost like a
a
wave in
cement
the ocean.
roller underground type thing.
Yeah. I mean, I always tell people like it was kind of like the wave. It's like when people do that at the ballpark, it was rolling right after the other. It's like the floor just moved. It just rolled like a tidal or something. It was weird.
That's crazy.
Never had figured out. And as far as I know, it's never happened since.
Oh wow.
Was there any physical damage afterwards?
No. Nope. And we've actually been underneath that because we specifically did that when we bought the hotel. I said, I didn't do it. Yeah, but Mike's dad was, he's a skinny little guy anyway. So he got underneath there. I say, while you're down there, I need you to look for something. And he's like, okay. So he went down and came back and was like, no, all the joists, there's nothing broke, nothing cracked or anything. It's everything's good because it's a 100-year-old building, 125-year-old building. So it's like anything's possible, but nothing at all. Everything's intact.
That blows my mind.
I've heard of really weird shit happening during seances, though. Stuff where people will lose kind of like their sense, or it's almost like a vortex is around them or something. Something with the energy that happens when people are connected that way or something. Tables will even crack or just move, or like the weird sense of like shifting and stuff. That it's just fascinating.
Yeah, it's weird when like 25 people all have the same experience that night.
Yeah. And that helps. That helps so much too. Because otherwise I would have been just like, did I just is this vertigo? Am I just
right.
What?
Yep. And then I was sitting at the end of the table, so I got to see everybody's experience as that thing came straight through.
Yeah.
What the heck is wrong with these people?
That would be a trip.
Yeah, you're seeing their personal experience, and then having it hit you at the very end.
Yeah, seeing one at a time, like all around, just like.
Yeah, I have no idea what it was.
Well, the hotel itself, I mean, was there? I know it was a very popular location for people traveling in the area.
Right.
Is that the main, I guess, selling point for the hauntings there? How many people were in and out during a specific time, or were there things that happened there that may have escalated the situation?
They did have reports of one priest that hung himself in the attic and killed himself up there, and then there's been, and we've never been able to find anything. Thing with hotels is that it's not like the Poor Farm where I can go out and look for stuff and find stuff.
Right.
The hotel, nobody's gonna. Other than maybe when it opens or they have special events, that's the only time you'll see something in the paper. But some of the local townspeople, because Atlanta, Indiana is very small. I mean, it says "Welcome to Atlanta" on both sides of the sign, and so it's a pretty small location. But we've had some of the people had relatives that had passed it down through that said that Dillinger and Capone supposedly has frequented the hotel. We don't know if that's true, and we just tell them that this is what we were told. We have no idea if that's actually factual. Can't find anything that says that they've been there. I mean, there's not like there's a guest registry that you go, oh yeah, John Dillinger was here on this date. It's like
Al Capone just loves to sign in that hotel.
Yeah. Al signed in at this time, and and these guys signed in, but they never signed out. So
yeah,
we've got a John Capone, but
yeah.
Oh man! Oh my God!
That's crazy though. But if the both of them had stayed there, God knows what horrible things could have come in with them.
That's very true.
And you don't know. I mean, it was close to Indianapolis, so if they were making the track from Chicago to Indy, and they wanted someplace to stay that was kind of quiet, away from everything, Atlanta Rhodes Hotel would have been a good choice.
So you own a fairly recognizable vehicle that you had mentioned from earlier.
My hearse?
Yes. No, I love that. But this one.
Had one for my first car.
I always wanted one too. So the Mystery Machine.
Yep.
What's the story around you getting that, and what do you use it for usually?
Well, and I'll tell you that here in a second. But yeah, I'll go back and how I got that was I had a friend of mine who was always bugging me because I had a '61 Corvair van. He said, "You should paint your van to look like a Mystery Machine." I'm like, "It's a window van." the mystery machine was not a window van. No, I'm not doing that.
You're like,
You came
clearly
with
not
facts.
understand.
You were like, no,
Yeah.
You do. Yeah.
And they
idiot,
said,
that's
well,
not a
then
window
paint your
van.
bus. Yeah, exactly. I'm like, so, well, then paint your bus. I'm like, the mystery machine wasn't a bus. I'm not painting my bus.
We're
And,
not half-assing this.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm looking on eBay one day for diecast. I'm thinking, I'll just buy her a mystery machine diecast. Here you go. You know, now leave me alone. And so I came across, I came across the listing of the mystery machine, and I'm reading through this, and the guy that listed it, it was pathetic. I mean, he didn't even say if it started or if it ran or you know if it had an engine in it or anything. It was a horrible listing on eBay. And so I sent him a message. Hey, I'm interested in this. I said, you know, can we talk about it? He said, yeah, give me a call tomorrow. I said, all right. And he said he gave me the time and everything. So I tried to call him, but then I'm a volunteer EMT, and at that time I was on an ambulance squad here in town, and so I'm taking a patient to the hospital, so I couldn't call him. So I contacted him later, and he said, yeah, I missed your call. Yeah, so we were talking, and he said, yeah, it runs. He said, nothing wrong with it. He said, it was owned by the studio when they started Scooby-Doo. He said, I've got the paperwork and the documentation, everything for it. I'm like, oh, that's cool. You know, I'm interested then. So I said, what do you want for it? And he told me, and he's like, oh, did you just buy it? I'm like, no, your listing ended last night. I haven't bought it. He's like, oh, I relisted it. Somebody just hit the buy it now. I'm like, are you kidding me? And he's like, no. He's like, what were you going to do with it? I said, well, I'm going to use it for paranormal investigations, do some stuff like that. I said, I also work for the kids' charity. And at that time, I was doing a lot of stuff with St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Mm-hmm. And I said, cool. I did a lot of stuff with St. Jude Research Hospital. I said, we'll take it down there and do some promos and everything like that with it all. He's like, well, I'd rather sell it to you than this guy. He's like, but I don't know if I can cancel this bid. I'm like, oh, yeah, you can. I said, here, click here, click here, click here. And I said, you can.
Let me show you.
So I did. Well, then my wife walks in. It's like, what are you doing? I was like, I just bought this van. And she's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, she's just like, here's another thing. All right.
So, yeah. And so we ended up, we got it. And it was actually, he bought it from a photo car museum in Chicago. And I'm about 3 hours south of Chicago. And a month after he bought it, it was like a month before, he had it shipped to the state of Washington. And so then it turned around and came right straight back to Illinois. And because he was going to do promos, he was going to do what I was doing, but he was going to charge people. And he found out that you really can't make a lot of money doing that. And it wasn't worth his time and effort and everything to do that. So he decided not to do it.
Right.
So we ended up with it. And we've used it just basically for fundraising type stuff with the, like lost limbs, and I've taken different conventions and all too. So it's fun. I enjoy it. It's kind of tough sometimes to get out, especially this year. It's been tough to try to work out some dates. I've got a couple. I think I got one in October I'm doing, and I don't know if I'm doing anything else other than that one right now. So, and that's the only one that's scheduled. But so we'll see where it goes and what we do. It's just it's something to have out there and have some fun with, and
right. It makes people so happy when they like stumble around and see it, and then it's like picture time, and like it's fun.
Oh yeah, well, and when you were up in Minnesota, I went up and I was going to talk to the guys at Destination Fear, and I walked up and and they're like, "Hey, Robbin, how you doing?" I'm like, "Okay, we met before." He's like, "We're working on the episode we shot out at Ashmore from 2015." I'm like, "Oh, okay." It's like kind of forgot all about it actually, but. And so we're talking, everything's like, did you know the mystery machine is downstairs? Has you been down there? I'm like, yeah, I've been down there. And he's like, they have mystery machines down there. I'm like, yeah, I saw it. And he's like, yes, man. I said, we hope we can get our picture taken with tomorrow. And I'm like, I think that could probably happen. And he's like, really? He's like, well, let's do it. I said, yeah. I said, you could probably get inside of it. He's like, no way. And I said, yeah, I'm pretty sure that could happen. He's like, really? I was like, I own it. He's like, oh my God, So they're like, oh, that's crazy. And so they came down and had their pictures taken. And in fact, my Facebook profile picture is actually at another event I was in, that all four of them were in there. And then Joe Chin happened to come by and like he got ran over by the Destination Fear crew on the mystery machine.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, a lot of fun pictures happen with that. Oh my gosh.
The one story I was going to tell you too with, and we kind of went back to the, where Josh Gates, Josh, at that event we were in Monticello, Indiana, Josh came over to me and said, hey, he said, there's an all-girls college down the road. any chance I could borrow the keys to the mystery machine? Because it's got to be a babe magnet. And I was like, I don't think that's a good idea right now, Josh. So at Michigan Paracon, I think it was like 3 years ago, I came up to him and I had a picture of him in the mystery machine. And he's got his drink and he's waving out the window like the wind's blowing his face and all. And I handed it to him. I said, hey, I got a couple of these. I said, would you mind signing one? He's like, oh my God, I remember that. And I said, yeah. And so he's like, yeah, I'll sign it. And his producer was there with me. He's like, is that Photoshop? He's like, no, I was in this. He owns this. And so I gave one to him too. And he said, you remember what you asked me there? He's like, no. I said, you asked me if you had the keys to it because there was a babe bag. It was all girls college down the road. You thought it'd be a babe bag. He's like, oh my God, I remember that now. And he stood up, was like, disclaimer, this was before I was engaged in anything. So no,
this was a different time.
Oh yeah. So it was pretty funny. And but yeah, so some fun times with Josh Gates too.
Yeah. Oh, it's so great.
There was one thing I wanted to ask you about. When I take it back, there were two things, Lindsay, that I learned today. The other one was about your house. Amazing. You've got an old theater that you've turned into your home.
I know, it's so cool.
Like, how did this even come about? And can you kind of walk us through some of the stuff you've done? Because I'm genuinely so curious about it.
Mm-hmm.
We've when I had an insurance agency, I write collector car insurance. That's what I do for a living. And so we had an office here in town, and we're in a small town, like 4,500 people. And it was at a strip mall, and the guy at the strip mall decided to raise prices, raise the rent and everything. I'm like, really? He said, yeah, we got to raise the rent, and everything's going a lot higher now. I'm like, there's nobody in your strip mall. So it's not like there's people begging to get in here. And they said, that's what I got to do. I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to look around. And so I went down and, I kind of like old stuff sometimes and doing some rehab type stuff. And so I contacted this theater was sitting here and it was empty for 3.5 years. And so I contacted the bank who owned it. And I said, I'd like to look at that building. Of course, they're like falling all over themselves trying to get out the door to come and show it to me.
Yeah.
And they said, there's no power in the building, so I can't turn any lights on for you. I'm like, okay. So we came in flashlights looking around the building.
Can I ask a quick question? Just real quick. I was just going to ask, like, how come all the property and all the shit you buy, you have to look at in pitch black with a flashlight?
Because it's cheaper that way.
I was like, there's a recurring theme that would worry me.
Yep. It's kind of, well, the only property I think I bought was our ambulance garage. I redid that one, and it was pitch black. There was no power in that, but there was no roof. So during the daylight, you're
You're like, that was dark, but I mean, there wasn't a roof, so we're
so that was a non-issue.
As long as you didn't go in the rainstorm, you're okay.
I like your style. I like what you're doing.
Yes.
Anyway, sorry to interrupt, but back to the home. They were rushing out the door to greet you, and you were in there with flashlights.
Yeah. And we just kind of wandered around a little bit, and then finally I called them back and said, hey, I said, I'd like to look at this again. And so that day I brought a generator with a couple of huge lights with me and kicked them on, and we're looking through everything and I'll just see it. And I called the bank and told them, the girl that showed me the building said, make us an offer. I'm like, okay, I could lowball anybody. And,
$5. Yeah.
No, I actually add 3 zeros and you were on it. But yeah, so I sent her an offer of $5,000, and the bank president called me back and said, we can't sell that property that cheap. I'm like, okay, well, you've had it for 3.5 years, and I can see a lot of people. There's a lot of people standing there. You had to cut down a 2-inch tree in front of the door so I could get in to take a look. And so I said, yeah, it's like people are beating down your door to buy it. And so he said, well, I'll tell you what I'll do. He said, if you really want it, I'll sell it to you at a very low interest rate, $15,000, and you can have it today. So I said, let me think about it. I'll call you back. So I hung up the phone and told Norma, I was like, I think I'm going to buy a building. So we did. And the only thing is, when I bought it, I told her, I said, you can't come in it. She's like, what? I said, you're not coming in it for like 2 weeks. I got to get it cleaned out first. And I filled up a dumpster in the first 4 hours I owned it because it was a mess.
Oh my gosh.
I don't doubt it. Ugh.
Yeah, it was horrible inside here. And in fact, the police chief and I are friends at the time and all. He's like, look out. If you're cleaning that out, watch out for syringes and things like that. He said, because,
yeah.
there was kids that would go in there and party and things like that all the time. And so I'm like, okay, well, fortunately I never found anything. I did find a couple of small vials, probably from Coke or something, but yeah, so we ended up buying it, cleaned it all out, made our office in it. In fact, that's where I'm sitting right now. And then we built a couple years later. I told my wife, I said, we're down there so much, we ought to just live there. She's like, there's no windows in the building. I'm like, you just cut those out. It's not a big deal. 7,000 pounds a block later, we had windows, and yeah, and we had to carry those blocks out one by one. It wasn't like you could, because there was a house right next to us.
Yeah.
And you couldn't just drop, you couldn't just push the wood block out. Yeah. You could drop it on the house and on their property and everything. So, yep. So we had to carry them all out bucket by bucket, and for 7,000 pounds of block. So, and it's haunted. I mean, I knew it was haunted when I bought it.
It's haunted.
So,
do that.
I mean, here's all the shit it's haunted.
I love it.
And you may not even know the story, but it's haunted by a very notorious serial killer that we've had situations with.
What?
So, yeah, a guy by the name of John Wayne Gacy.
Shut up. Really?
Oh, it's that theater?
Yep. And,
holy cow.
You live with Pogo?
Yep. Welcome to my world.
Oh, damn.
Ooh.
That is intense.
Nope, couldn't. There's a lot I can do, but that's.
I just say hell yeah to your wife.
I was looking for.
Yeah, man.
I don't think I've got it here. Nope. I was looking for a book that I thought I had here, but Brad Kling did an episode from Strange Curiosity up here because we were down in San Antonio, Texas, telling him the whole story about it, and he's like, "I got to come up." And I said, "He's like, I got to come up there and do that." He said, "We're going to come up, investigate, and do a story on this." I'm like, "Okay." So he did, and it's out there. I think it's still out on Amazon Prime, and you can. Yep, it's a Strange Curiosity episode 3, Killer Coincidence, and
we will link that for sure.
Yes, we will.
So, what is he? What kind of experiences have you had with John Wayne Gacy?
Yeah.
Well, I really can't tell you. But I'd have to kill you.
Or would he?
But no, it actually it all happened very innocently. If you can believe John Wayne Gacy was anything innocent. But we as I call them, we had newbie nights where I had people that had never investigated come to the theater, and we take them on walkthroughs. And I've got an amplified microphone or headphone system that we go back and we do the walkthrough. It takes about 45 minutes. We go back and we listen to the walkthrough because normally here in the building we get EVPs. We just do the walkthrough. And so everybody's got headphones on. We're listening to that. Well, 3 of my friends here that are psychics said, "Hey, we're going to take Damon through the building. He's never been here before." I'm like, "Okay, that's cool." So he's going through the building and he's picking up in one area. He's like, "I keep hearing the name John Wayne, like the Duke, the old Western actor and military actor and all, John Wayne."
Mm-hmm.
And he said, then he's again, and I've got one room that has 45 RPM records. And Lizzie, what those really are, those little things that look like CDs. But our ceiling is covered with them, and we put them up there on our ceiling. And he said, "I keep hearing the song 'It Ain't Me' by Creedence Clearwater," which isn't actually the name of it. That's what everybody remembers it by. And so he said, just started walking around and everything. And they went upstairs, and he's walking through up there in the living room, and he's like, "There's something about this armoire." He's like, it's just making me sick. He's like, "I don't know what it is, but this armoire I'm just having all kinds of problems with everything." He's like, "I just gotta get away from it. This is disgusting." And so they went downstairs, and he's like, he's like, "We're going to the basement." He's like, "I know that you guys run a haunted house here, but I keep seeing clowns. I'm thinking that my subconscious is telling me that since it's a haunted house, there's got to be clowns here." And he's like, "So I'm kind of throwing it out, but," he's like, "I'm sure that's what it is." And he's like, "But I'm also seeing a jail cell downstairs." He said, "Before we go down there, I've seen a jail cell." And so they went down. Well, we did have what looks like a jail cell down there because I had a 50,000 watt Jacob's ladder that I didn't want people to touch. So we had it inside the cell area down there at the haunted house. Yeah. And then he comes around the corner, he finds these, the clowns, and he kept hearing and seeing somebody digging. He's like, "It's just constant digging in the basement here." So they go upstairs in our theater room, and they're sitting up in the theater room talking, and he's like, "I don't know what it is." He's like, "There's something weird here." And he's like, I keep seeing, he's trying to put it all together. It's like John Wayne, the Duke, the Ain't Me, this armoire, the clowns and everything. And so he said something about the armoire. He's like, what's with that armoire? And Norma's like, well, actually, before she said that, he said, one of the other psychics told Norma, it's like, I don't want to alarm you, but John Wayne Gacy's standing right behind you. And my wife isn't into the paranormal at all, but she's like, I'm going to follow the psychics around. What could go wrong? And so,
oh God, yeah, what could go wrong? Oh
yeah,
no.
So she's sitting on the floor in the back of the theater room, and John Wayne Gacy's standing right behind her. And Patty's like, he's in shackles, so he's not going to hurt you, but I'm not going to tell you what's all around his legs. And she's like, okay. And to this day, she's never told us. And we're like, all right. And Damon starts thinking about it, and he said, why is John Wayne Gacy here? And Norma's like, I don't know if it makes a difference, but when I was in college, my roommate's brother was killed by John Wayne Gacy. He was one of the victims. And they're like, okay. And two of the other guys who actually were with him that night that were walking through with Norma said, well, when he went to prison, we handled all the paperwork for him. So all the paperwork came across our desk. And they're like, all right. And Norma's like, and I don't know if it makes a difference, but that armoire upstairs that you said that he had some bad vibes about and everything. So yeah, it's like, Robbin bought that from John Wayne Gacy's attorney. And we found out later that,
oh my God.
Yeah, she stored paintings that John Wayne Gacy painted for her in prison in that armoire. And
was the famous one in there? Like the one that everyone knows of him as Pogo?
Yeah, the Goodbye. He did a lot of different Pogos. One of the ones he did was Goodbye Pogo, which was when he figured he was going to be killed.
Yeah.
But he did a Goodbye Pogo. He also did an ugly skull-looking thing that he felt that people thought he looked like. He was basically painting a self-portrait. And it was just some horrible-looking skull, looking thing. And then he painted some scenery pictures that he would like to go to when he's gone. And a lot of people don't know it, but he painted a lot of Snow White in the Seven Dwarf pictures. And,
really?
Yeah, he did. If you Google John Wayne Gacy's, Snow White, you'll see a bunch of those pictures. And look what what all the dwarfs have in their hands. They all had like pickaxes and shovels and stuff like that. So
yeah.
But yeah, he had that type of stuff. And the paintings that she stored in that armoire, I actually was holding them. She was going to sell them to me. She made me an offer to buy them, but then I countered with it, and then she said no, she couldn't sell them because there was a logistics problem because she can't profit off of something that her client did in prison.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we couldn't get them, but yep. So that's what we did, and but that's kind of in a nutshell our story with John Wayne Gacy.
Oh my
here at the building.
Lord.
And
well,
we used to let people investigate here, and we quit doing it because about 75% of the time that people investigated here, they started asking, "Hey, John, are you here?" All this and all that.
Oh.
And my heart would go in AFib, and so it was an irregular beat and everything, and so I just had
seriously would go into AFib.
Yeah, about 75% of the time.
Nuts. Okay, that's fine then. No.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Just 3/4 of the time, it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, one night when there's a group here investigating, I walked in. I told my wife, and I've been an EMT for like almost 20 years, and so I went down and ran an EKG on myself. My heart was really doing whack stuff that night that group was here, and it's finally about 11:30. I told my wife, I said, we need to go to the hospital. And she's like, they're done here at midnight. I'm like, I don't care. We need to go now. And I said, we know, lock the door. We got to go now because the hospital's 30 minutes away from me.
Oh, God.
So I took my own EKG up to the hospital and went to the charge nurse. And so I said, I need to see a doctor. She's like, can I ask what it's about? And I'm like, this. And I handed her the EKG. And she's like, give him a chair. So, yep. So they got me a chair and they're taking me back. And it's like, okay, when we get back, this is going to happen. It's like, well, you probably already know this since you brought your own EKG in. I'm like, yeah, I think so. So, yep. But they got my heart straightened out, fixed up that night. And actually, I told my wife, I said, we need to get home as quick as possible. She said, why? I said, then you get like 3 or 4 hours sleep before I go to Ashmore. So.
Oh my gosh! Of course he would do that, Robbin.
we got home about 5 a.m. I think by 9 or 10, I was up and gone to Ashmore and had work to do.
That seems about right.
Everything about you is shit that terrifies me. Like I've always thought I was fairly tough with certain things, and it takes a lot to shake me. But you have just put me in check, like straight down the board.
Well, they put a pacemaker in 2020 for me, and they put me, they put you to sleep with this pacemaker stuff and all.
Not you though.
And well, yeah, that's true. So
Shut up.
The doctor started was talking, and he kept asking me questions and all. And I'm like, God, just start the procedure. And I'm like, oh, I know. They're waiting for me to shut up and not talk because then they'll know you're out. So I didn't say anything. So they started the procedure, and they're doing everything. And so they're cutting and putting the pacemaker in. And I told him, I said, excuse me. I said, could you move this cannula? It's blowing my eyes. And they're like, what?
They're like, excuse me?
The cannulas, I said, because they got your face covered and everything, because they just opened this one spot where they're doing it.
Right, yeah.
And I said, the cannula's blowing in my eyes, and which is what they use to put in your nose, for oxygen.
Right.
And so the nurse looks under there. It's like, yeah, it is blowing in his eyes. And actually, put it in his nose. and so he's like, can you hear what's going on? I'm like, yeah, I've heard everything you guys have done since I shut up. You started working. And he's like, are you feeling anything? I said, I just feel you like moving things around as you're pushing it all in there and all. He's like, no pain. I'm like, no pain at all. So he's like, okay, if you feel anything, let us know. And so they kind of started talking to me, because we're talking ghosts and we're talking all kinds of stuff. We're talking because the doctor knew that I was involved with paranormal. He's asking me all kinds of stuff. Like, here he is putting a pacemaker in for me, asking me questions of paranormal.
He's like, oh, good, now I can interview you.
So yeah, it's pretty much what he was doing. So, and so we were doing that too.
That's fucking
Jesus.
Robbin, oh my God.
I'm gonna be 100% transparent right now. I took a day and a half off of work this week because I had a bladder infection. You had a pacemaker put in, and you were just talking shit with the doctors while they were inside of you.
Yeah.
Yep. It was outpatient, so they got out a couple hours after we were done. So.
It's out. I mean, yeah, outpatient. Don't put me to sleep.
Most of my doctors tell me this is what we tell everybody to do, but this is what the minimum you need to do. I'm like, okay, because I know you're not going to tell me, you're not going to do what I tell you to do, so you might as well just at least do this. I'm like, okay.
I said, this motherfucker talked to us during surgery. Don't give him a 30-week rehab. Tell him what he has to do, bare minimum, and send him on his way.
Yes.
Yep, that's I had knee surgery done, and I got down, and in fact, I remember when we went to, because I'm a big guy, and I was on the gurney, and the two nurses that were taking me back, like, I hope he doesn't fall off, because we'll never get him back on here. And so we got back to the recovery room, and we're sitting there. I mean, they said this in the operating room. They got me to the recovery room, and I was, you're still a little droggy, but I came out. I said, were you the nurse that brought me out of there? And she said, yeah. I said, aren't you glad I didn't fall off?
I didn't fall off.
Her face turned white. And she's like, what? I was like, yeah, I heard you guys talking in there about that. She's like, oh my God. She's like, I am so sorry. I'm like, what are you going to be sorry about? I'm the one that's fat, It's not your fault. So I said, but speaking of fat, I said, can we order a pizza or something? Because I'm really hungry. I haven't ate since, last night. And she's like, no, we're not doing that. She got to be here like 4 more hours. I'm like, no, we're not staying for 4 hours. I said, that doesn't happen. And I said, call the doctor. So the doctor came down, who was a friend of mine. He's like, so I understand you're giving him a hard time down here. I'm like, I just want a pizza. I said, just have him order me a pizza. I'll be fine. He's like, how about we just kick your ass out of here and you can go home and order your own pizza?
How about you just go home and do whatever you want?
He said, but come back to me in a week so I can take stitches out. I'm like, yeah, okay. He's like, no, really, come back. You can take him out while you're in the office. I don't care. But I want to make sure that everything's healed right. So just come back and you can take your own stitches out. All right, fine. So, yep.
Well, this is a point in the show.
Oh my gosh.
I am going to, I'll email you this clip, Robbin, so you can see it, but I'm going to have Lindsay put in the only surgery I've ever had that it was outpatient, required my mother and my wife at the time to be there with me. And it's about a minute of me in recovery. And I'm just I'm talking 20-minute outpatient shoulder surgery. And I want everyone to see the perspective of
Okay.
of
I haven't
this.
seen this video, so I am looking forward to it.
I just dawned on me you hadn't seen it. So I'll send it afterwards. But yeah, we need to do some fun editing and throw that in because you're a beast. Like, I don't know. You live with fucking John Wayne Gacy. You were like wide awake during a freaking surgery to put in a pacemaker. You did your own EKG while you were having a freaking heart attack. And then you were back at work like 4 hours later.
Well, yeah, I had knee surgery. The what?
I was asking for animal crackers and a slushie.
There you go. I had knee surgery done, and the doctor told me when I got done, he said, don't go back to work and answer the phone and things like that. I'm like, all right, fine. So we got done. I went back to work. I said, I can't answer the phone. He told me I couldn't answer the phone. He's like, really? You can come back? But I said, he told me that don't go back to work and answer the phone. I said, so I'm back at work, but I'm not going to answer the phone. And so when I went back a week later,
you were such a brat.
He asked me, he's like, so how long were you on those crutches? He said, because the other guy who's here was really not even close to being as bad a shape as you were, and he's still on crutches after a week. He's like, how long did you stay on the crutches? I'm like, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours, something like that. He's like, what? And I said, well, he's like, you freaking hockey players are all the same. He's like, you don't know what pain means. And I said, well, it didn't really hurt that bad. I said, so, and I don't take painkillers. I don't do that. Mm-hmm. And I stay away from them. Did enough of those in high school. I don't need to do anymore now. So, and so I just stay away from that stuff. And it's just something I don't want.
Holy crap. Yeah. I don't even know what to say right now.
I do. I need to go cut down some fucking trees and get some flannel. I need to do something. God. I'm gonna go punch a tiger. Something.
Robbin has set the bar high. The last time I saw Robbin was at Scarefest last year, and that happened to be a week after another big convention had happened and clusterfuck situation. And most folks in the community know about it, so we're not going to get into that. But when I ran into Robbin and we were kind of talking about it, he was telling me all about kind of the things that he looks for, like green flags, red flags when it comes to conventions. And I thought it would be really cool if he could let us all know the kinds of things that he looks for when considering whether to maybe get a booth at a convention, or if one approaches him and asks him to come, what kind of things he looks for. So anyone who may be watching and is interested in either like getting a booth somewhere or has been approached by a convention already, what kinds of things are good to look for and what are red flags. So we have a special segment for you called Convention Tips.
And Bodine.
So I've personally, I haven't been to a convention as even a spectator or fan or whatever the proper terminology is for it. There aren't many in the area that I live without really traveling. So I don't have a ton of input on this. So I'm going to leave a lot of it to Lindsay, but if there's any way to throw in some info for people like me that might be looking into going to a first one as well, that would be
like
awesome.
Suggestions of what would be good to go to?
Yeah, like which ones as fans also, like which ones as far as red flags could go that from a fan's perspective.
Right.
Yeah, not just the other side. Sorry.
Yeah. No, that's a good idea. Yeah. When a convention approaches you or you're considering getting a booth at one, what's kind of like the process that you go through?
Well, it kind of depends with me, especially because if they ask me if the mystery machine is going to be there, then I have to work out logistics with them as far as bringing it in, and because I just don't do it for free, and I'm not going to pay anybody to bring that in because the gas mileage is horrible, driving or trailering it down there. So what I look at it is I always, if I'm going to bring it in there, I always try to set up, because I don't make any money with that, but I always ask them to provide a booth for Lost Limbs Foundation so we can help raise money. And that's what Scarefest, when you were there, that was my agreement with them, is that I'd bring it in for X amount of dollars and hotel if they gave us a booth for the for Lost Limbs, and they agreed to do that, because usually the cost, I try to keep it just basically what it cost me to bring it someplace to do something like that. But if somebody else is going to come in, the thing that you can get burnt so bad with these conventions, if it's a first year convention, especially, if you're going in as a celebrity guest, and I'm not a celebrity, but the band is. So if you're going in like that, you got to ask for something up front, especially first year. Now, places like Michigan Paracon, I wouldn't do that. I know Brad for a long time. It's a great place. Scarefest, same way. You're not going to ask for it up front. They've been doing this for a long time, but these first year conventions are the ones you got to worry about. And coming in as a guest, and they're willing to pay for you to come in and pay your fees and pay your hotel and like that. If you don't get it up front, you're probably not going to get it at all, because most first year events are tough. They overbook their celebrities, and they can't afford to bring them all in, and they're expecting the gate to take care of it. Well, most first year events don't have a huge gate. I mean, it's not there. And I went to one, last year in Fort Wayne, Indiana, that was terribly attended. We did really well there, but we were actually at a really good spot. But I mean, it didn't have a very big thing. And I always ask the guys at the promoters, like, what's the attendance going to be? What have you sold pre-sale tickets? And if they'll tell you, great, and divide it in half, because they never tell you the truth. And so that's what happens most of the time. And it's like, if the numbers are so small, it's like, it's not probably worth your time. You're going to spend more probably in hotel expense and travel expense than you are making it there.
Then you are going to get back, yeah.
Yeah, if the gate's small, it's probably going to be a rough one, for you, especially if you're selling stuff that's not really along the genre that of people that are going to come to that event. And you have issues with it.
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of them that have there'll be like a horror con that'll have like someone who did voice acting on anime. It just doesn't, that's not the right crowd for that.
Right.
And I haven't understood. I mean, and I guess they may do okay, but the wrestling, they'll bring a lot of wrestling stars into horror conventions, and I haven't figured that out yet. But I guess it's maybe they kind of overlap or something. I don't know.
Well, they do it with sci-fi too. We have a sci-fi convention here. It's the only one I think the state has, but every year they've got a wrestler or two thrown into the mix. It'll be like this one person that was on Battlestar Galactica, 3 wrestlers, and people that you've never heard of. And it's always that combo. It's crazy.
What I always tell people too is, don't buy your most of these conventions never sell out. So what they do is if you buy your tickets in advance, they're non-refundable, and all of a sudden the celebrity guests are not. They find out they're not getting paid or something like that. They start dropping off, and you bought tickets just to go see them, and they're no longer there, and they're not going to be there. You're not going to get your money back. And so I always tell them, hold off, even if it costs you $10 more to buy it at the door. You're better off then you'll find out who's there and who's not there, because they'll probably post that, hey, we're not going to be there, and for some reason. And usually, a lot of times they're legit reasons, like they're filming, or they've got something going on, they're sick, or there's and that happens. But it just there's one right now that's going to happen later this year that they've been announcing people, and they're not going to be there. And they're still on there. In fact, Mike was supposed to be a guest there, and I told him, you realize your picture's still up on their website, right? And he's like, they're supposed to take that off. And so, and Mike will be the first to tell you that it's not like there's a lot of people going to come just because Mike's there. But at the same time, it makes you look bad when they put you up there, and then you don't show up. Then because they never say, well, we didn't pay for the guy, we didn't pay for his hotel, we didn't pay for his transportation, we didn't pay for anything. we didn't have the money. They don't tell them that. They're like, oh no, he just canceled on us. And then they kind of flip it back to the celebrity, the guest that's supposed to be there. But yeah, I mean, it's tough to come up with these conventions, and I always tell people that if as a promoter, if you're going to put on an event and you cannot afford to pay for that event, if not one person shows up at the gate, don't do it.
Yeah.
And because they're banking on the gate, and the gate, especially first year events, are small.
Yeah.
I mean, it's we talked at the one last year that you were at, when I met you, and they didn't have a huge turnout at that at all, and they lost a lot of money, and people probably still haven't got paid from that event, and so it's
that was last summer.
I think it was
summerish,
June or July, something like that.
Wow, and people still haven't gotten.
I don't think so. I mean, I know that they didn't. Yeah, I know that they hadn't 2 or 3 months after that event, they hadn't got paid. And so it's but yeah, I mean, for the fan, the best thing for the fan is just kind of hold off and wait and make sure people are going to be there. And especially the ones that you want to talk to, you want to meet. Make sure they're going to be there, or even send them a message or check them on Twitter, because usually they're promoting it themselves most of the time anyway. They're going to be there, so
exactly. So they'll say if they're not going to be able to make it for whatever reason. Yeah.
They'll usually post something about it that they're not, or if they are going to be there, they'll promote it and say they're going to be there. You'll say, okay, they are going to be there, so do that.
Well, that's a really good tip about just waiting to buy the tickets there, because it's always like, oh crap, I don't want to miss it, or
wait too long. $10 or $15 extra to buy at the door is nothing compared to the $300 or $400 you're going to lose at the hotel, the $100, $200 to travel to get there.
Yep.
So that $10 to $20 extra for the ticket at the door is well worth the extra expense when you find out that you don't want to have to go there because they're not going to be there anyway.
Yeah, exactly. That's good to know.
That's yucky.
Because I know I've certainly had the moments where like, oh crap, I don't want to wait too long. Like it's going to be.
For me, looking at the venue, the people on the actual agenda that are slated to show up, and the amount of people like on the social media platform wherever, like if they've got 27,000 likes, you're probably okay. Like is that kind of a smart way to look at it?
Well, at least that there's people going to their page.
Yeah.
I mean, there was conventions last year towards the end of the year that had just about anybody and everybody from the paranormal in it, and most of those people never got paid anything. Most of the people showed up. Most of the celebrities showed up because they felt an obligation to the fans,
right?
Because they were going to be there, but they knew it was going to cost them money. I mean, they didn't make anything. And then, in fact, Chad Lindbergh, at that event, his video was probably the best. He's like looking down the hallways.
I took that of him.
What's going on, everybody watching Lindsay's story on Instagram? It's Chad Lindbergh. I am here with all my fans. Here with all of my fans and kicking ass.
So you took that?
I took that video because I couldn't believe that they put him in like no man's land. I was like, why don't you feel like making a video about how pumped you are about all the people coming to your table right now? It's like, sure, why not?
Yep. And he'd be the one to do it too.
Yes, he would for sure. Yeah. He's such a great guy.
Chad's been great.
Is there anything else you can really think of with conventions? Like in terms of maybe when what Keith was mentioning, stuff for other things for fans to consider when it comes to conventions?
Yeah, I mean, when fans come to conventions, you kind of want to look and see where the venue is too, and make sure it's in a safe location. Because some of these places go to the cheapest place they can go to just to put it on, and you come out your car and it's like all the tires, wheels are gone, stuff like that. So make sure you're going to some place that's safe and that holds these things, other than just doing something off the cuff and we have to place cheap, so we're going to go there. And
I feel like the cheap part and the location part is like a double warning.
Yeah.
Well, and yeah, the cheap locations and look for the hotels. I mean, because some of these places don't have anything, and they'll put a convention on. I mean, when we do stuff at Ashmore, we have 2 hotels that are like 7 miles away. After that, it's like 20-mile drive, and which is a little longer than some people want to go, especially for an event. So make sure the accommodations are going to work out for you before you go. And some places even have age limits, so you think you can take your kids, and you can't because they have to be a certain age to get in. So you want to check that out too.
Oh, jeepers. Yeah, no kidding. Yes.
As long as I don't have to go through another surgery. Like,
oh, geez.
I forgot I was not a man until just then.
Hey, whatever. You're on medications. You don't know what's going on.
When you have an outpatient, they don't have rooms. You're in like the curtain type thing
area,
for recovery. And you'd think, like, if someone next to you had gone through some sort of procedure that recovery could impact you in some way, like being next to them, they'd let you know, right? At least warn you, be like, hey, it could be a little loud over here. I didn't get any of that, and the guy next to me had some kind of lower GI colonoscopy thing, and they pump you full of gas for that. The gas has to come out.
Oh, Lord. Yep.
So I'm in recovery.
Oh, God.
Confused, bitching about like how they didn't give me the animal crackers with icing on them, and that these were dry.
Oh, they didn't have the frosting. Jeez.
And all of a sudden, my neighbor decides it's time to let everything go.
Oh, no.
So he can recover.
Pain does,
Perfect. Let me get that ready. I'll get some discharge instructions. We'll go over those. Set of vitals, get tried. She does, huh? Yep, I'll go over this again. Okay.
God damn it.
You're welcome.
Yeah, that's right what he was doing too, coughing and choking.
Yeah, the face of disgust, like the look of disgust on my face is just...
We ran into that problem with EMS when I used to kind of help out with the ambulance and things like that and run calls. We'd go to someplace for lunch and we'd be talking about the different calls that we ran. And you can't talk about who the patient was, but we talk about the calls. And we kind of forget about it because we're talking about it. Yeah, they severed their leg and we're having lunch and eating. And it's like, severed their leg, almost falling off, everything. There was like, lost about a pint of blood and then going on. And you kind of forget that people sitting next to you are like, like gagging. It's like, oops.
I'm like, maybe I don't remember this happening. I'm like 5 minutes awake. And that's half of the video because I cut out the part where I'm complaining about like my animal crackers and stuff. So like that's me after being under for 20 minutes. I also pissed myself.
Oh, great.
While I was under.
Yes.
You, again, I'm going to reference back.
Just awake, hanging out.
Yeah. I was in my 30s. I pissed my boxers in 20 minutes, got upset about the kind of animal crackers I had, and almost got up and left because my neighbor farted.
Oh, I hurt. Oh my gosh.
It's a tough life you live.
So I definitely have some things I'm going to work on after this. You're a magnet to pull out how people should be better, because you are just like, I bought this hotel for this charity. I've had these surgeries like while I was awake. I popped backs. I've brought up this relationship problem that these people need to talk about because I pop her back, and like you motivate without realizing it. I think that's your superpower.
Yes. So I'm telling everyone right now that if you go to any convention or anything and Robbin is there, stop over and say hi and maybe get a hug. He's a great hugger.
So
You're
thank
one
you.
of my
Appreciate it.
favorite people, Robin, in this
Oh.
community. Yes, easily.
Although, you know, when Lindsay was at Scarefest, she comes over and starts to talk to Mike and I, and all of a sudden it's like, baby! And she goes, I'm like, nice talking to you too. She goes
I
running
did
down
that. I know. I'm so sorry.
to the
Like,
fake
that was-
baby.
That was the first time I had gotten into the actual convention area. Like, I had just been dropped off because we'd been running or getting people from airports and stuff. And so I'm sitting there talking to them and not paying attention to anything else. And I just start kind of looking around as I'm talking. And right there is the Impala replica from Supernatural. And I lost my shit. I was like, I'm so sorry. I have to go over and look at that.
I have to be honest. I was
you never
very
said that at all. You just yelled baby and took off running.
Really?
I was very confused
Sorry? Oh my God.
until you referenced Supernatural. I was like, I don't see Lindsay ever being like, oh, there's an infant. I need to go see it. So the whole time I was like, this story feels like bullshit. And then I'm like, oh, the
Now
Impala.
it makes
Okay.
sense.
Yeah, that
You
makes
had to-
sense.
Oh, and when you go, if you see him there and you go over to say hi, give some money to Lost Limbs Foundation as well.
Yes.
They do amazing, amazing work.
we give away prizes and everything at the end. We have a drawing. People that donate money, we put their name in a hat, draw the stuff out, and we've had all kinds of people that have donated, investigations and merchandise and stuff like that to us. It's been great, and so
That's
we do it.
awesome.
My birthday's in December, and so we do it. And we usually have drawn like we drew it this year on New Year's Eve day, maybe it's New Year's Day, one of the two, someplace in there. And but yeah, so I think we've done over the last 4 years. I think we've raised about $30,000 just for my birthday.
Wow.
Done.
Crap.
It's not me; it's people that are donating money in, and
But
Yeah, but the amount of people that
People love
speaks
you.
volumes. Yeah. I was
yes.
gonna say that speaks volumes to you.
Mhm.
I've
I
raised
just-
$230 one year for an animal shelter, and you're like, again, thanks, Robin.
well, if it wants to make you feel worse, they do it
He's
again
just
today.
going down a peg like each 5 seconds. He's just like, oh,
You know, I don't
You do
drink,
it.
but
tonight.
tonight might be the
is
night.
the night to drink.
Yeah.
We do it